Good evening. I'd like to welcome everybody to the Arlington Public Schools regular board meeting at 6 o'clock. So we'll call this meeting to order. Will everyone please rise and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you. Will the clerk please call the roll?
Director Ray,
Here.
Director Kelly,
Director Kelly is absent and excused.
Director Kingman,
Here.
President Levesque,
Present.
Director Knapp,
Here.
Student Advisor Schroeder,
Here.
Student Advisor Laban,
Student Advisor Laban is also absent and excused.
Superintendent Sweeting.
Here. Thank you. Next, we'll have our approval of the agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the agenda as presented?
President Levesque, I'd like to amend the agenda.
And what would you like to amend in the agenda?
I'd like to add discussion about compensation for the board. I'd also like to add an item that talks about travel for the board.
Is there a second to amend the agenda?
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to amend the agenda to add a discussion item for board compensation and for board travel. So those will need a vote. Can we have a roll call vote of the board?
Director Ray,
Aye.
Director Kingman,
Aye.
President Levesque,
Aye.
Director Knapp.
Aye.
So then that motion passes. So the agenda is amended to add those two items. They won't show up on the screen, but the clerk will add them in her minutes. Thank you. Next, we'll have our approval of the minutes. We have 2 minutes, one from August 8th for regular meeting minutes and one from August 15th for the board all-day workshop. We're going to do these one at a time. Do I have a motion to approve the regular meeting minutes from August 8th?
Make a motion, we approve the regular meeting minutes from August 8th.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the August 8th regular meeting minutes. Madam Clerk?
Director Ray,
Aye.
Director Kingman,
Aye.
President Levesque,
Aye.
Director Knapp.
Aye.
Next up is the board all-day workshop minutes from August 15th. Do we have a motion?
Make a motion, we approve the board all-day workshop minutes from August 15th.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes from August 15th. Madam Clerk?
Director Ray,
Aye.
Director Kingman,
Aye.
President Levesque,
Aye.
Director Knapp.
Aye.
Thank you. The minutes are approved. Next on the agenda is a public comment section. Do we have anyone signed up in person or on Zoom?
We do not have anyone for public comment tonight.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is our consent agenda. This includes our personnel report, warrants, the 22-23 board meeting schedule, a cooperative agreement with Western Washington University, a memorandum of understanding between Everett Community College and Arlington Public Schools, the district's strategic plan revised, and the superintendent's annual report. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Make a motion, we approve the consent agenda.
Do we have a second to approve the consent agenda?
Second.
Thank you, Madam Clerk.
Director Ray,
Aye.
Director Kingman,
Aye.
President Levesque,
Aye.
Director Knapp.
Aye.
Thank you. The consent agenda is now adopted. Next, we have our new business, and that will include first the 22-23 interscholastic activities report, and this will be presented by Superintendent Sweeting.
I'm just getting the PowerPoint up and I think you can see it here. So every year it's required that I share with you the interscholastic activities for each of the schools. And I did have help on this. Executive Director Eric DeYoung contacted the building principals and confirmed that these are the activities. So they've been confirmed. The first is at Arlington High School. You can see what the athletic opportunities for students in the fall, the winter, and the spring, and it indicates whether if it's like soccer in the fall, girls, and then tennis for boys. So it indicates that information. The next slide is interscholastic activities, which this is when we actually compete with other schools. So you can see that we have some opportunities other than athletics to compete with other schools. And we have the Air Force JORTC, and we have DECA and drama and a whole long list there, robotics, culinary arts. There's a long, long list, construction. So a lot of opportunity for our students. The next slide are schools of choice, which includes Weston High School, Stillaguamish Valley Learning Center, and homeschool students. And they are able to join their resident schools. So for example, Weston High School students can actually participate, in the activities at Arlington High School, the athletics there. And Stillaguamish Valley Learning Center, age appropriate for that. And homeschool students can participate in those clubs or the interactive scholastic activities. For Weston, they do have an additional club. It's a CTE club. It's the HOSA club. So that's listed here. Oops. Uh-oh. Go slower. Have a new, okay. Haller Middle School, here's the listing of athletics available at Haller Middle School and the interscholastic activities. And, we have to also, there's another report that we have to submit each year to talk about our athletics and interscholastic activities to, say why we might not have one for one group or over another. Post, here's the listing. Questions or comments? Okay, and that's just a report. There's no action needed.
I have a question, and maybe you don't know the answer to this, but how do all of the students find out about what is offered? Also, how do homeschool students maybe know how to participate in what we have available?
I know that for homeschools, parents, one came in today, when they apply, there's information that they're provided. It's on our district website too, but it states in the information that they can have access. Now, they do need to take that step, to connect, but there's website information. There's when they apply for the homeschool parents and families. For those at Weston, they are not just, it's not just on the website, but the administrator at that school shares that opportunity during their together time, Panther time. So it's information that it's readily available in different formats. It's just students would have to choose to do it or not. And unless Mr. Sable can say there's any other way that we share that information, but there's a school calendar. There's information in the school calendar about certain, ways to contact the school about events as well.
Can I ask you one more question?
Sure.
Do we have the same offering that all the middle schools? Is it equitable and fair across the system?
So at Haller, there's basketball, boys and girls. At Post, basketball, boys and girls. At Haller, cross country for boys and girls. It doesn't say boys and girls at Post, but I assume that it's boys and girls. It just doesn't say it. And then track and field, boys and girls. So far, volleyball is the same, wrestling, boys. So in the athletic area, it's the same offerings. In the interscholastic activities, now you'd have to have an advisor for these. So keep in mind, there is robotics, Howler, there is robotics at Post. There's both the music, vocal and instrumental and the Lego League. So exactly the same.
Excellent. Thank you.
It's funny that this is a subject tonight because I was asking the same thing with my oldest who goes to SVLC. I wrote to them today wondering what he could do at Haller. So that's kind of cool. Yeah. So I'm also one of those parents wondering. So I was wondering, it says first robotics. Do we have different levels of robotics? How many levels, if so? Oh. Okay. Thanks, Mary.
Thank you, President Levesque.
That's the name of it. First robotics. Okay, cool.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, next up, we have our affirmation and commitment to the board superintendent operating principles, policy 1600. And this is an action item.
So during the board workshop on Monday, the 15th, August 15th, we went over the policy 1600, the board and superintendent operating principles. Again, we do this every year. The policy 1600 outlines how we will work together as a board and superintendent team. It talks about our roles. It talks about how we communicate and listen and cooperate and support each other. Talks about our judgment and trust and decision-making and responding to complaints and concerns. And it talks about our board meetings and the protocols for the board meetings and agenda planning. And then it also puts in what the board and board members can do and when they want to request something. It's based on the WASDA model policy. We've had the policy 1600 and procedure in place for a while. During the workshop, I engaged the board in a true or false activity. So I took statements out of the policy 1600 and I created a true or false. And some of the statements that we came out, at least on the true side, were the board reviews and suggests the what. That is true. The superintendent decides the how. These are all true. So these are highlights of the truth. The board and superintendent commit to no surprises, best we can. And then once a decision has been made, the board and superintendent will work for successful implementation. And the board and superintendent will comply with the Open Public Meetings Act requirements. So those were just a few of the highlights that came out of the true and false activity. So what questions do board members have?
I don't hear any questions. This is an action item. Do we have a motion to approve the affirmation and commitment to policy 1600?
Make a motion, we approve policy 1600, affirmation and commitment.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Madam Clerk, can we please take a vote?
Director Ray,
As I missed the workshop and have been unable to review the policy, I will abstain at this time.
Director Kingman,
I read it and I approve.
President Levesque,
Aye.
Director Knapp.
Aye.
Thank you. That affirmation and commitment is approved. Next up, we'll have our key learnings from our last week's all-day board workshop from August 15th. Superintendent Sweeting.
I'll be a director too. So during the workshop, we had a time of reflection. And we also did this activity during the district leadership workshop that was the previous week. We asked ourselves, what have we learned during the last year? What have we learned that will help us as we move forward into a new school year? And some of the things that we wrote down, these are different comments from different people that were at the workshop. Change is constant. Listening to voices is essential. All kids back in school full time. That was a reflection. That was great from last year. I was reminded how much I care for all and each of the students. And so I'm not going to read anymore, but this was the collective reflection of thinking about last year and then moving forward. I shared that during the workshop that for this year, the emphasis is the strength of you, me, and we. Since I've been here, we've had emphasis, and the emphasis don't go away. They stay a part of us because it's based on what is needed at that time or the emphasis at that time. And so each year there's been an emphasis, and this is our emphasis for this year. And we talked a bit about that, and I shared some information about that. Here's some pictures of us engaged in the work that we did. We met at the airport conference room, and part of the activity was to take the board self-assessment for the 5 standards that are they're from WASDA, and to take our individual assessments and look at the collective results and identify the areas of strength and the areas for growth. And so we spent time in the groups looking at the data and on the charts, putting on information. So you can see the groups grappling there. And there's one more picture of, oops, oh, it's going fast. I know it's just, okay, I'm going to stop because it does that. Okay, so now there's just discussion about what others learned.
I could start us off. The big things that really stuck with me would be when we looked over the survey. It was eye-opening to see how much the results had changed between this year and last year, and also the year before when it was available. I think that the results were very different and not quite what I expected going in. And then another thing was when we studied in groups the individual policies, we had board standard 5. And I think, changed it a lot based off of what we needed this year rather than last year. So it was just nice to see the improvement.
I should mention, thank you, Kyle. We dug into the survey results for the staff and the students and the community and families, and that was really good to see the data. And we also then looked at possible board goals based on our self-assessment.
Director Knapp, do you want to share?
Yeah, I'm happy to share. It was really great to be all together and really focusing. I mean, we did miss a few folks who weren't there, but I think that one of the things I'm excited to see happening is the establishing the Student Advisory Council. I think that's going to be really important. I really valued the survey results, family and community, the student surveys, and the staff surveys. So that'll be another way we can listen to the students is through that advisory council. I was in a group, we were looking at board goals 3 and 4. So I was with Brian and Gina, and that was really awesome. We were talking a lot about safety because one of the survey results was a lot of folks just didn't know what kind of safety measures we have and how to react in an emergency, or are the resources there? So we talked about more communication about how our schools are safe and, how to express that to the students and the families when they come in is safe and welcoming. So it was really good conversation around that. And one of the things that I saw in the student survey results, they were concerned about their success in the next year, is what a lot of students were saying. And I think that just showed that we need to continue the support of them. And that's, to me was a kind of like a mental challenge is, yes, we're back in school, but they're still worried. So it's just more work for us to do. And one thing that Carrie mentioned was the DSET. So the diversity, community, and equity team needs more folks. So I've been, talking to community members about joining that team. I've been a part of it for a couple of years, and it's been really awesome. And maybe at our Stronger Together event on September 17th, I just really enjoy listening, like seeing the survey results, but then also the Stronger Together event is a chance for us to be in the community and actually talking with folks, whether they have kids in the schools or not. And so, yeah, it was just really important to me to be involved and listen.
Thank you for sharing. Matt, can you do the swipey thing? I want to share, there's a couple things that I really wanted to highlight from our board workshop. Perfect. And that was in our survey when we were looking over all the results. I was just astounded and impressed at how many high schoolers responded to the student survey. I don't remember exactly how many, but it was dramatically larger population of students than we'd had in the past. And I thought that was really impressive that the leadership of the high schools had made it available for their students to participate in that, because that's super valuable for us to know how they're feeling. And also I wanted to point out one of the other highlights from the surveys. We asked families and staff and students about the Friday early release, and it was very overwhelming that Fridays are the best. So it made me happy that we can do one good thing that the families are happy about. So it was great to get together and discuss goals. I got to be in a group where we talked about student learning and we're kind of brainstorming. Carrie HB and I were talking about how can the school board see more of the student learning. We're here on a Monday night and school is not in session, so we do not get to see the students actually learning. So Carrie was brainstorming some great ideas about how we can learn more about how the students are learning. So I was really excited to see more presentations and more evidence and more, just see more of the student learning. So I'm excited about the new directions that we're going to go and setting goals together. And it was just really great to be together for the whole day and really just dive into a lot of the data. So it was pretty great to be there. So thank you.
And we have a study session on September 19th in the evening from 6 to 8, and we'll dig into more data and also look at the board proposed revised goals and do some more maybe revisions at that time.
Does anybody else want to share anything from the board workshop? Okay, this was just a discussion. The next thing on the agenda will be the first reading of board policies 5001, hiring of retired school employees. And then we'll also be discussing 5011, sexual harassment of district staff prohibited, and 5612, temporary administrators. And this will be presented by Eric DeYoung, our Executive Director of Human Resources.
Good evening. Happy Monday. Yes, 3 policies for your first reading. They're pretty much minor changes. The first one, 5001, is that right? Hiring retired school employees. Basically, this is just adapting to a change in the law that allows retirees to work more hours. And this was addressing the substitute shortage that we had this past year. So that was changed. And so we're just updating our policy to reflect those changes. It looks like a lot, but it's really just changing the number of hours that an employee can work after they've been retired. So any questions on that one? We can move on to the next one. 5011, which is the sexual harassment of staff prohibited. And there was just a minor addition in there just to clarify that this was also applied to certain situations, which is this one specific situation here. Sexual harassment targeted at district employees carried out by a student, employee, or a third party involved in school district activities. So it's just making sure, this policy applies in this situation, basically. So it's just an addition there. That was the only change on that one. Again, pretty minor, but a clarification that was needed. And then the last one is temporary administrators, which basically just points back to 5001, saying that that falls under the same guidelines that were in 5001. So that's it. Any questions? All right, hearing none.
All right, this is the first reading, so no action is taken unless anybody would like to suggest any amendments to any of these policies. All right. Next up on our agenda will be the first edition by Director Ray. And Debbie, would you mind pulling up our school board policy that refers to board compensation? I don't know which number it is, but it's in there somewhere. And there's also an RCW about it. If you could just do some digging, that would probably help us.
Have the
And-
RCW up if you need the number.
That would probably be really helpful if you want to let them know.
28A 343 400. Sure, it's RCW 28A Adam dot 343 dot 400.
I do have the compensation one up on mine. Do you want me to show my screen and we can at least look at that first? If that is all right, my Director Bray. Okay, let me see. I think this is the right one. So this is 1733 board member compensation. This is the policy. Then I'll show the procedure, but this is pretty, let me make it bigger. It's basically saying that each board member may receive compensation of $50 per day or portion thereof for attending board meetings and for performing, services on behalf of the district, but it's not to exceed $4,800 per year. And it does say in the second paragraph that, and well, I will say that this comes from funds collected at the local levy. It does say that. And then any board member may waive all or any portion of this compensation with a compensation waiver. And this RCW, the 400, we'll look at that. It's on this, but let me go to the procedure. I think it just kind of clarifies what kind of meetings, and it says pretty much the same. And then if we go to the RCW, the search part. Right, there are some.
Can you make it a little bit bigger, Brendan? Thank you. Can everybody see that all right? All right, Director Ray, now that you brought this to our attention, would you like to speak to your decision to add this to the agenda and what you would like?
Yeah, thanks. As we all know, the budget cycle and our budget for next year is going to be a pretty big challenge for us. And we've identified that we feel it's going to be continually challenging for the next couple of budget cycles. And with that in mind, I would like to have a discussion about waiving compensation for all the board members for the next 12 months. Just as a, first step in trying to balance our budget. I realize the dollar numbers aren't ginormously huge, but anything helps.
Thank you. Brenda, do you think you could scroll down on that screen a little bit more so we can read the intent behind this law? And I just want everyone to be aware of the intention of this RCW, that it does say the legislature declares it is the policy of the state to ensure, for the sake of educational excellence, that the electorate has the broadest possible field in which to choose qualified candidates for its school boards. 2, ensure that the opportunity to serve on school boards be open to all, regardless of financial circumstances. And 3, ensure that the time-consuming and demanding service as directors not be limited to those able or willing to make substantial personal and financial sacrifices. So I just want everybody to be aware of that.
May I move that we wait until Ms. Kelly is here to vote on this as well? Is that fair?
There wasn't a decision on the table about this. We were just having a discussion.
Oh, I
about it.
apologize. I just thought maybe she should be here for it.
If there is a motion to make any action, then you could move to postpone a decision. That would be appropriate.
I did do some research on, on the amount of money that this is so far since the September of 21 to July of 22. So for that period of time, how much? And it's about $10,712.09. So I just wanted you to be aware about what that amount is.
I don't think I've claimed more than 1 or 2 months since I've been a board member. I think maybe $50 or $100, right? So I almost don't have a dog in this fight.
I guess I'm wondering, because I know that funds are allocated. So can these funds be reallocated?
On this concept, because I've had conversation with Director Ray about it, is that I did contact Tim Garshaw, the executive director of WASDA, just to get just some more information. And he said that, the $50 compensation is up to, it's up to, first of all, it says right in the law that each individual board member can make that choice to waive that. And some are doing it with, even not formally, but are not putting in a timesheet. And so he did say that it's, whether the board makes that as a commitment together, that would have to be a board vote on that at some point.
Do we know of other boards in other districts who have done this, and if it has made a significant difference?
Yeah, I'm unaware of any. But I haven't asked anybody either.
Okay.
I know that WASDA is helping promote a survey. I got a survey in my email from WASDA about board member compensation, and they were asking lots of questions about do you use the compensation? Do you have to pay for childcare? Do you have to worry about lots of missing work and that sort of things? So I don't know if everybody else got that same email, the same survey about board member compensation. It was sent out by WASDA, and I think it was from like the Department of Commerce or something.
And I think that stems from the fact that this is an RCW and the legislature, they're the ones, that body, they're the ones that said boards should be compensated or they can be compensated. Not that they will be, but they may be compensated to make sure, and I think to make sure it doesn't hinder somebody from wanting to participate on the board.
So Director Ray, do you have any further comments?
I just trying to get a discussion out there, what everybody feels would be appropriate to do. Of course, I would like to see us as a board unanimously decline our compensation for the next 12 months. I don't know where everybody sits on that. Of course, it seems pretty obvious I'm for it. But yeah, I would certainly need to include Director Kelly in any final discussion to see what her thoughts and opinions are about that. But that's it. This is my intent to have this as a discussion topic and maybe come up with a some type of unanimous decision, either individually or just individually waiving it, or if somebody chose to, we could do a board motion.
Thank you for bringing this to our attention. Is there any further comments or questions about this agenda item? Can we move to the next one? Okay. Next up on our agenda is the additional topic of board travel. And I think there's also a policy about this one. And I don't know what number it is.
If you don't mind, I mean, we could just discuss the travel. If we're looking for the policy, that's fine. I mean, the intent of this is essentially the same, to suspend board travel, or at least district compensated or district supported board travel for the next 12 months. And in order to ease any monies for the budget, certainly we're willing to travel, if you want to on your own, that's great. I'm happy to support that. But to limit any district incurred expense in any way, shape, or form according to that travel. I know there's a conference coming up in Spokane. There'll be some costs incurred with that. And yeah, I'd like to see us take a first step forward and to as a board elect to not use any district funds for that travel expense if anybody chooses to go.
I will share that I did talk with Executive Director Tim Garshaw from WASDA. He had a different, on this particular topic, felt that, the board well, first of all, there's a requirement of training that they are required by law that they would receive. It's equity training. There has to be 2.5 hours. So we went over that at the board study session, and it's offered at the conference. If it's not offered at the conference, then you have to travel to, like we went, Mary and I went up to Anacortes, so that it involves distance on that. But in your first, in that first term, you have to do 2, so 5 hours. So there's some requirements, but the intent, what was shared and what I share is that as a board, we are making hard decisions, and we need to have engagement in professional learning that'll help us to make the best decisions as possible and to network as best as possible. I think we should do it as frugally, and as with being good stewards as possible. And I will say, in the last 5 years, we have eliminated out of state, which is awesome, for the board. And so and the WASDA annual conference, one year it'll be in Spokane, the next year it's in Bellevue. And so it's a tough one on the travel, it's important that we get that professional development. And I would not want, because the district wasn't going to pay for that it would hinder someone from going. That's all.
I'm trying to wrap my mind around this. So the WASDA conference has an expense, whether we attend over Zoom or in person. Are they offering a remote option this year? No. Okay. Oh, darn it. Okay.
Does anyone else want to share some thoughts or comments? Superintendent Sweeting, can you help us understand how much it costs for the board to go to a WASDA conference and what all the different expenses are? And maybe Gina could help weigh in on how much of a cost that all adds up to with travel and meals and hotel and the conference fees.
I mean, I can give a general thought, but if you want specifics, we could have that ready for a, further discussion. But, there's registration fees, which I'm not sure Debbie probably knows. Okay, so for professional development for 21-22, we spent $5,415 on registrations and $2,679 on lodging and mileage. So for a total for the whole board for 21-22, $8,094.40. And then we did the legislative conference, which was on Zoom, that was on Zoom, but it still cost, there was still a fee. And the cost of that was $585. And then we did the intro to equity, which was $52.17. So the total of all of for 21-22 for professional development for the board was $8,731.57.
And then I'm also curious how much of a difference it would make compared to, because we're going to be in Spokane this coming year and we were in Bellevue last year. I attended on Zoom, so I didn't submit any expenses except for the registration, but how much of a difference that might make, and then what overall budget impact that would have, and would that help us?
Well, I know that, of course, there'll be more mileage, but if we all got into the Suburban, those of us that are going and shared one vehicle or two vehicles, that would eliminate some of the mileage. That would help. We're looking across the district. We're working with our buildings, the schools, in holding back a certain percentage of their budgets. And all of the departments were considering all these things. So as we work through this next year, we're looking for some cuts anyway on how to do that. And already I know that we have plans. I know Kyle and Mariska are registered. We're actually registered. We're presenting. We were asked to present at the conference 2 days, one on Thursday, one on Saturday, or Friday and Saturday. And Mariska and Kyle are helping with that. And most likely they would be driving over with me, in my vehicle. So yes, it would be more. The cost would be similar, but it would be more because of the distance. Because most of us did attend the conference in Bellevue. So really the professional development is we do what we can in our own district, and then we've gone to the WASDA annual conference. And the thing it does help when you go to the conference and you can attend the required trainings there rather than have to go, each of us going to different, like to go to Anacortes or go to Bellevue, which could be some of the options.
And so it sounds like if we didn't take compensation, it's about 10,000. If we didn't go to a conference using district funds, it's at least 10,000. So up to 20,000, which seems like not an insignificant number. Certainly not going to fix our ailing woes, but puts a dent in it.
I appreciate you bringing this to all of our attention so we can discuss this as a board in an open manner and transparent with the public. I know everybody's hurting right now with inflation and all the different stresses to our family's budget. Me personally, I am the sole breadwinner in my family, and I don't have an extra dime for anything at all. In fact, I'm not sure how I'm going to buy laundry detergent this week. So I depend on being compensated for my valuable time. I'm working 2 jobs in addition to being a student and having children at home. I can empathize with trying to save money, but personally, I'm also trying to keep my personal budget balanced, and I don't have an extra penny for anything like this. And it would be inequitable, in my opinion, to start a precedent that we all work for free, because our time is incredibly valuable and our attendance at meetings is essential to the running of this district. And if we all had to get extra jobs to make ends meet, then it would eliminate some of the equity of the people that we represent, because we don't just represent the well-off parts of our community, we represent everyone in our community, and we need to have a diverse board and not limit the attendance at meeting. So that's my opinion on that matter. Does anybody else want to share about board member expenses?
Thank you, Mary. I appreciate your addition. I am not as, I don't have as well formed of a thought as you do. When I was running, I didn't know that board members were getting compensation even at all. So that was kind of a surprise when I started, but I feel like I can see both sides of it. And that's the whole point of us being here, right? It would save a lot in the budget. And also, I don't want the lack of compensation to provide a barrier to anyone either for being here. So it's a lot to think about. And I appreciate you bringing it up, because it is important for us to examine all of these things and look at the numbers and then consider the impact all around.
Director A, do you have any further comments on this topic?
None at this time.
Okay. I think that wraps up our new business portion of our agenda. Next up is our informational items. And we'll start with our superintendent's report, and that will be presented by Dr. Sweeting.
Today, we launched the Teacher Summer Academy, and thank you, Carrie Henderson Burke and team. There a lot of participation. I don't know the exact numbers, but the parking lot at Haller was full. And I did get a chance to visit this afternoon briefly, but I was able to go into and so keep in mind, these are our teachers, our staff, and some paras, I would think too, paras and teachers who they don't get paid to do this, but they get clock hours if they would like to get clock hours. Well, there was CPR training, CPR and AED training going on, first aid training. There was GLAD, Power Bites, and that session was packed. And I'm amazed at those instructors and very print rich in that opportunity of learning. There, I also visited the STEM classroom where they were engaged in learning about how to engage students in STEM learning. And also at the same time, they're earning their STEM clock hours, which is required to renew their teacher certificate. I went into a neuroscience literacy instruction class where they were talking about how important it is, not that we when we're spelling a word, when we're learning a word, it's not just that visual remembrance of the word, it's how we write the word. It's important. So that was fascinating. That was fascinating, but it was well attended. Tomorrow it's again from 8:30 to 3:30. And there's tomorrow, I do know that Carrie Helgeson has a session on the Hope Navigator project. So and I think we have over 180 some people, over 100 people that are signed up for that. So I'm impressed with our staff committed to learning and getting involved in that. So next week on Wednesday, the 31st, we have District Day. That's the kickoff for all staff at the Burns Performing Arts Center. The board is invited to come. It's from 8:30 to 11:30, but I do need to have your RSVP because if we are going to have a quorum, I need to publish that we're going to have at least three board members there, but you're welcome. We're going to have a guest speaker, Erin Jones. Fantastic. And then from 11 to 12:30, when she's finished speaking with all staff, Kyle, Mariska, and myself, we're going to go to the Commons with Erin Jones and along with about maybe 13, 14 other students. And we're going to launch the first Student Advisory Council. And Erica has agreed to be the board representative during that time. We're going to have lunch together. We're going to empowered thinking and inspired. Erin Jones is her theme or her emphasis is going to be about how we can be our best selves to collectively do good things for students. And she was, just to highlight, she was the first Black woman to run for state office in 2012. She was recognized in Washington, D.C. in 2013 for a champion of change. And so she has a list of things that she's recognized for, and she's very dynamic. So we're looking forward to having her. And that's next week on Wednesday. Both of those things, the launch of the first Student Advisory Council and our kickoff for all staff.
Thank you for that detailed report. So when do you need the board's RSVP if we're going to attend on the 31st?
As soon as possible. I mean, because we'd have to publish 24 hours. So, and I know to help Debbie feel good about this, that we do that, sooner rather than later. We publish within 48 hours. So I would say, think about it and let me know by Friday. Is that good? I'm looking at Debbie. Today's Monday. So it's a week from this Wednesday. On Wednesday. Yeah, it would be helpful if you say if you can or cannot. So
I'll
there's,
tell you right now, I'm not going.
okay. Okay, thank you, Mike, because that makes it clear, because when we have an unknown, then we're just not sure. And Erica, you're,
I'm
You
just
can
gonna
make
be
that two
there.
mics.
okay,
I'm only gonna be there from the 11 to 12:30.
okay.
Yeah.
And then,
I was planning on coming in the morning from 8:30 to 11:30.
well, good, then we don't have a quorum unless Sherry, even if Sherry came, I think we're okay, so. All right, thank you, that was easy.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is our legislative update and discussion. But Director Kelly is not here. So we'll move into comments from board members. And we'd like to start with our student advisor, Kyle.
Just to start off, I would say that we are very, very much going closer and closer to school. So I'm very excited for that. And this Wednesday, I have, we call it Eagle Day at Arlington High School. It's where we get our classes, figure out our schedules and all of that. So I'm excited for that. And then the next Wednesday, I have the Student Advisory Council. So I have two things to look forward to, and they were both on Wednesday. And then that's it for me. Thank you.
Thank you, Kyle. Director Knapp, do you have anything to share?
Oh, gosh. I don't have anything prepared, but we're just, enjoying the last little bits of our summer break at our house. The kids and I went to Airport Community Day yesterday, and that was fun. For anybody who went, it's a free event that just a bunch of resources, community resources were there. The library was there. McDonald's was giving away free French fries. So my kids went back, I think, 3 or 4 times. And other than that, they're excited about school. So I'll have one in 8th grade and one in 3rd and one in 4th. Yeah, we were talking about high school next year. So a mixture of excitement and nervousness. So I'm just glad that they're here and they're excited.
Thank you for sharing, Director Knapp. Director Ray, do you have any thoughts? Director Kingman?
I've got 2 boys entering middle school this year, and I look forward to hearing from the student council later on. That's all I have.
Thank you, Director Kingman. I'd like to share that I have 2 going into high school this fall. One is a rising 9th grader and one is a rising junior. And we are so excited, about 10% and about 90% nervousness. So there's a lot to do. Want to thank everybody for being here tonight and let you know that our next meeting will be our next meeting is September 12th on a Monday night at 6 p.m. right here in the boardroom. And do I have a motion to adjourn this meeting?
Make a motion, we adjourn.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn. Madam Clerk.
Director Ray,
Aye.
Director Kingman,
Aye.
President Levesque,
Aye.
Director Knapp.
Aye.
Thank you. Meeting is adjourned. Have a great night and drive safe.